Japanese scary stories. Thank you for opening this video. I would be very happy if you could let me know in the comments what you think could be improved, what you liked, or what you would like to hear so that we can deliver better videos. Please lend force. Thank you. Please also subscribe to the channel. Open this door for me. This is a story about an eerie experience I had when I started living alone after entering university. The apartment I moved into was a typical two-story student rental, with single-occupancy rooms lined up. The building was old, and to be honest, I didn't have a great impression of it when the real estate agent showed it to us. But I had started looking for a place late, and there wasn't much time before the start of the school year. So after discussing with my father, who accompanied me for the viewing, I reluctantly decided on this apartment. I moved into a corner room on the second floor facing the road. After a hurried move, the entrance ceremony quickly followed. For a while, I was completely absorbed in adjusting to university life and living alone in the city. But after about a month, I started to feel more settled. One day, as I returned home on my bicycle and entered the common hallway from the back of the building, I heard it. Thud. Suddenly, there was a loud noise coming from a room at the end of the hallway. This room was on the opposite side of the building from mine, facing away from the road. Curious, I approached the room. Then, I heard another series of loud thuds, as if someone was hurling themselves against the door with all their might. The doorknob rattled violently. "What's going on?" I wondered as I stared at the door. Then, I heard a voice from inside the room. "Hey, is someone out there?" "The door won't open. Can you open it from the outside?" The voice was low, anxious, and irritated. Looking back, I should have ignored it, but I couldn't help responding. "What's the matter?" "The door won't open from inside. Can you do something from there?" "I don't know how." I inspected the door, but nothing seemed to be blocking it from opening. The doorknob looked normal, and it seemed strange that it wouldn't open from the inside. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong on this side." "It can't be. The door won't open. Open it for me." The man inside continued shaking the doorknob and banging on the door throughout our conversation. Actually, I knew that this room was unoccupied. When the real estate agent showed me the apartment, I had asked which rooms were available, and this room was one of them. It had a dim and unwelcoming vibe, so I remembered thinking I didn't want that room. Just a little while ago, when I had passed by the back of the building, I had seen through the window that the room was empty. There were no curtains, and I could clearly see inside. It was completely bare, with nothing that could block the door. "Hey, open up! I know you're there! Please, open this door for me!" Terrified by the persistent voice and the pounding on the door, I fled from the scene. I didn't even feel like going back to my own room, so I spent that night at a 24-hour diner. In the end, I begged my father for moving expenses and moved out of that apartment just 2 months after moving in. What was in that room? It couldn't have been a thief breaking into an empty room. What would have happened if I had opened that door? Maybe there was some sort of dark history associated with that room, but I have no courage to find out now. It's better this way. I don't want to know, and I don't want anything to do with it.
Rumored to be haunted housing complex. My family home is a housing complex that's been around for over 30 years. My mother lives there alone now, as my brother and I have both married and moved out. This happened when I returned home with my 3-year-old daughter to give birth to my second child. My mother was at work, so it was just the two of us at home when my daughter said, "Mommy, there's a man here." Startled, I searched the house but found no one. "Is there a man here?" "Sorry, Mommy can't see him," I said. My daughter replied casually, "There are 2 men." Her words sent a chill down my spine. Luckily, my daughter was shy and didn't seem inclined to interact with the men she claimed to see. When my mother returned home, I told her what had happened. Being easily scared, she recoiled and said, "Oh no. Something scary happened recently too." Just a few days before, my mother had visited a friend in the same housing complex. The friend wasn't home, but her daughter had answered the door. Later, my mother received a call from the friend. While discussing their plans, the friend said something strange. "Who was with you when you came by earlier?" "My daughter said you were with someone she didn't know." My mother had gone alone. "What?" "I was by myself." "Really?" "My daughter saw someone else standing beside you." My mother was too frightened to delve deeper into the matter. It turns out, several residents in that housing complex have reported sightings of apparitions. Those who can't see them wouldn't understand, but hearing so many reports made the place feel creepy. One day, I shared this story with my brother. To my surprise, he said, "Actually, I have a story too." When he still lived at home, he stayed up late one night. Our room was on the third floor, and his window overlooked the building's entrance. Being an old building, you could hear all sorts of noises, but it was usually quiet at night. My brother said he heard the sound of a bicycle approaching from a distance. People have different schedules, so it wasn't unusual to hear someone returning home late. The bicycle sounded old, with a distinctive creaking. My brother listened as it entered the complex, passed between the buildings, and approached the entrance beneath his window. Probably someone coming home, he thought, and casually peeked through the curtains. But there was no bicycle. Strange. I could have sworn it was right here. He looked around but saw nothing. Then, suddenly, right behind him. Creak. The sound of the bicycle he had been hearing was now inside the room. "What did you do?" I asked. I was so scared, I froze. I couldn't turn around. I just backed into my futon, covered myself, and stayed like that until morning. There's no record of any tragic events happening in that complex, but even without such a history, it seems to be a place where the ordinary and the extraordinary intermingle.
Not a stigmatized property. Having had many strange experiences since childhood, I found myself helping with the job of cleaning vacant rooms. Given some discretion in the family business, I usually assigned rooms with bad vibes to part-timers or temporary workers. I felt bad about it, but dealing with what I saw was just too much trouble. This story is about a particular apartment I encountered. The real estate agent had told me, "It's not a stigmatized property, but the tenants tend to change frequently." The apartment was on the third floor of a 5-story building. I finished the cleaning on schedule and was doing my final check when I heard the melody of Yuyake Koyake from outside. It must have been the 5 p.m. signal. As I called to confirm the cleaning was done, I felt a slight vibration and heard the sound of a railroad crossing gate. It was winter, so it was already dark outside, and the unheated room was quite cold. I placed the cleaning tools in the corridor and waited for my husband to pick me up. December is a busy month, so sometimes I handle cleaning a room alone. After a while, the real estate agent and my husband arrived together, and we completed the handover. "Was everything okay?" the real estate agent asked. I said there were no issues, and we made small talk. The previous 3 tenants in this room died in railway accidents. "It's not a stigmatized property, but it has that history," the agent said. My husband, looking puzzled, asked, "Really? Railway accidents? Suicides? Where? There's no railway nearby." Indeed, to get to the nearest station from this apartment, you'd need to take a bus. But I'd felt the distinctive vibrations of a train while in the room, and I'd also heard the sound of a railroad crossing gate. That's the strange part. The causes are unknown. It happened in broad daylight or while people were Returning from shopping, the agent replied. It dawned on me what was happening. There was something in that room that would push people in a moment of weakness. 3 people had already died, but who could I tell? Since it wasn't officially a stigmatized property, I checked no issues on the handover sheet. It wasn't a stigmatized property.